Hello, hello, and welcome to the show because you are now tuned into a brand spanking new Monday Night Live. That's right. AKA the Hangout Stream, AKA the Chill Stream, baby. All fired up and having some fun for November 14th, 2022, and brought to you by yours truly, the man, broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com or simply Google this name and you can find out. So let me go down. I'm going to do something new with the format. We'll start the show. I'll do a little lineup for the show as like a little introduction. So for tonight, we do have some reading time. I will be reading what seems to be a bit of a scathing blog post. Indeed, I do have some hot topic developments for our conversation on art and artificial intelligence, some new developments for that conversation. I will be ending the show tonight with on a lighter note with a fun-filled feature video. But first things first. I always like to start the show off by showing off some books that are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. So first up tonight, we have from Afshan Q. They write, "This new story is for kids. This heart-touching story shows all the ways a mother helps her son to be a successful man in the future. This is the gift for every boy and mom to celebrate their special bond." And this is Mom and Friends by Afshan Q. All right. Here's the blurb. "This news story is for kids. This heart-touching story shows all the ways a mother helps her son to be a successful man in the future. This is the gift for every boy and mom to celebrate their special bond. An orphan boy needs his parents' guidance. This sweet story celebrates how a mom is always there for her boy, reminding him to be artistic, sincere, thoughtful, and most of all, true to himself and his friends. This story helps the food organizations in their mission." So apparently, I don't know if that's insinuating that some of the proceeds goes towards charity or something like that, but 20 pages, this children's book. We do cover all sorts of books here in this first segment. All these books in this first segment are books that come to suggested to me directly by the publishers themselves, whether they are self-published authors or an indie label or a small press company. And this next one comes from Twitter. It is from Herman P. Hunter. And he just says, "The Revenant and the Tomb," shares a link to his book. The Revenant and the Tomb by Herman Hunter. All right, let's check out the blurb on this one. In a seedy tavern, two men meet. One, an old and seasoned guide who knows the way to a tomb where riches are rumored to exist, a place somewhere on the fabled mountain called the Horn of Torgiv, and in a region notorious for evil things and dark deeds. The other is a mysterious young man named Hale Cedric, who seeks something other than wealth. What he seeks is something old, dark, and diabolical. What waits in the dark depths of the tomb, and will it lead to their ruin? Journey to the Horn of Torgiv and discover the dark secret hidden beneath the gray stone of the mountain. 138 pages. This one, Amazon has it categorized under Christian fantasy, religious science fiction, and fantasy. I believe I do have that one on my TBR list. Sounds interesting. All right, moving right along here. I'm getting through this trying to get through this pretty quickly here, because I do believe that this is going to be a little bit of a longer stream than normal. So we'll see what's going on. Oh, you are a fan. What's going on, Sean? Nice to see you. All right. Coming up from Twitter again. This one is from Corinna Underwood, and she writes, a roller coaster ride, paranormal mysteries with an unexpected twist. Pearl Blackthorne is a character you'll want to get to know better. And this is her book series, A Walk on the Dark Side. Well, this is the first book in the series, I believe. Howdy, howdy. Got some heavy hitters tonight, I have to say. All right, there's the cover, and here is the blurb. Pearl Blackthorne is a novelist and investigative reporter for Darkside Paranormal magazine. Armed with her digital recorder and accompanied by her friend and photographer, Harry Raymond, Pearl is sent by her editor, J.J. Benson, affectionately known as Benny, to the four corners of Great Britain, and sometimes further, to investigate stories of spirits and specters, demons, prophecy, and possession. The problem is, Pearl doesn't believe in the supernatural. Her creative imagination is tempered by a strong skepticism. She is immovable on her stand that there is always a simple, rational explanation behind every report of paranormal activity. But Pearl soon realizes that the intricacies of paranormal events are often far from simple and not always rational. This is the first book in the Pearl Blackthorne series. This edited edition contains character confidentials previously unpublished. Interesting. And that is another one that I have added to my TBR list. 177 pages of occult horror, supernatural mysteries, occult fiction. Right up my alley. All right, one more book for tonight. And we have from Armon Mikal, a free cyberpunk introduction to my trilogy. If you like grit, crime, and action, this is a good series for you. And if you like it and pick up a book, you'll help me pay my vet bills for my cat that needs surgery. Of course, this was dating back to September 1st of 2022. So hopefully he was able to get his cat's surgery since then. And this is Shot in the Dark, which comes from the Aurora Chronicles by Armon Mikal. All right. So this one is a short story. He said it is an introduction to his trilogy. So this short story says, when you're a runner in the city of Luckhaven, life and death come down to customer service. It's good customer service to mind your own business and not ask what is in the mysterious bag you are picking up. It's good customer service to take the back roads so the cops don't stop you. It's good customer service to get back up after taking 2 bullets in the stomach and hunt the shooters down, then retrieve the package you were supposed to deliver, even though you are bleeding out. Ezekiel Aurora offers excellent customer service. It's quite a compelling blurb, I have to say. I like how you structured that blurb. Again, this one is absolutely free. You can pick it up for free on Kindle right now. 38 pages on this short story. Under crime and mystery, science fiction. 1 hour science fiction, fantasy short, cyberpunk. And that is the third one tonight that I have on my TBR list. That is a first. That is a first for the live stream to have so many suggestions added to the TBR list in one show. All right, and that is the books for this week. And if you guys tune in, you're watching this on the replay, make sure you can check out the community tab on this channel, and you can cast your vote. Make sure you cast your vote for which one out of those 4 books you thought had the most text appeal. That's right. In other words, which one out of those 4 books would you be most likely to pick up? And I don't necessarily mean purchase. As I said, the last book in that one, or the short story rather, was absolutely free for the taking. But by pick up, I could mean you would be most likely to pick up and read for yourself. And if you're interested in discovering more from the independent market, there is another option that you have. Of course, like I said before, all these books in this first segment of this show are all books that are suggested to me directly from directly by the publishers themselves. However, there is another option that you can go to my shorts tab on the channel or check out the mystery packs playlist, and you can open up some mystery packs, and inside each mystery pack is two things. One is a cover card which reveals a book that has been recognized by the LFLR network, and also included in each pack is one link to an editorial that was written by yours truly on that particular piece of work. So two ways that you can discover something from the independent market here. And that's really what I'm trying to do with this show. Use my, and also like you with my channel in some ways to try to give back to the market that I also contribute to myself as an independent author. So, and I also know that, especially like nowadays, it's like, it's kind of like I'm trying to do my part to kind of destigmatize the independent market. And I think nowadays, a lot more people are kind of on board with the independent market. Like more and more people are becoming more and more accepting of the independent market and the type of work that they can, or quality of work that they can expect out of the market, because the works are getting better and better because there are so many tools available to independent writers nowadays that just weren't available in prior times. So really, it's I think a barrier to entry as far as when it comes to the independent market is like, I think that people who are just getting started, they don't really know where to start. Like they might know some people that have published a book, or maybe they know of some people that are into writing or something like that, but maybe they don't really know how to discover different works, how to go about discovering different works. And I think that that's why it's important that people like myself are out here, and we're trying to raise awareness, actively raise awareness for what's going on in the indie scene, more specifically with independent publishing in general. And I definitely encourage other people out there, if you create content or anything like that, that, you might think about doing the same, maybe spotlighting some independent authors or some indie books or something like that. Maybe doing featuring some indie reviews if you do like Booktube or something like that, just kind of raise awareness and just let people know what is out there. Let's move right along and get into the next segment, where I interact with some of you who have been proactive on the channel and engage with my audience. Yes, this is a little segment that a little interlude, if you will. It's not always a segment I feature on the show. It's kind of like an as needed kind of deal. But this is where I say your comments matter. That's right. This is where I take a little bit of time to address comments that you guys have left on any of the videos across this entire channel. Contrary to what seems to have become popular belief around YouTube, at least in content creator circles, the comment section is not actually there to satisfy algorithms. The purpose of the comment section is so that people who upload videos have an opportunity to engage with and interact with their audience, i.e. the people who are giving your videos the time of day. And that is precisely why I've kind of switched up my approach to how I handle comments. And I don't address them in the comment section directly until I've had a chance to actually address them live. So it kind of like gives that a little bit of a personal kind of feeling to it. Like, you're getting your comment, especially if you're somebody who like may leave like a long and thoughtful type of comment, that could take some time. You know, if someone sits down and puts a lot of thought behind a comment, like I appreciate that. I mean, of course, my channel is on the smaller side in terms of subscriber counts. But again, I'm not doing this for subscriber count. As I've mentioned from the get-go, I want the engagement. So let's see what we have here for this week. I have a couple of comments to address this week. It is an improvement from last week. Let's see. Can I zoom in here? How's that look? All right, not bad, not bad. All right, looks like we have from Horace Blood Moon. Raise up. Okay, from username Horace Blood Moon, says that introduction was hilarious. He's talking about this was a video, an LFLR presentation that I did entitled "Am I Under the Influence?" I'll explain what that video, just a little brief summary of what that video was about. Basically, what I do, my videos are kind of divvied up and compartmentalized in different categories. So I have my shorts, which are basically just dedicated to the mystery packs. I do my live streams for you guys every Monday, for the purpose of engagement, raising, and like I say, raising awareness for the indie scene in general. And then I also have my Codex Inferni, which is a project that I, at my published projects, my published works, my short stories is under that folder. And then I do, for the LFLR brand, I do these LFLR presentations. So these videos are like pre-recorded, sometimes pre-scripted videos. They're more like presentations that I do. So I try to add a little bit more, dare I say, production value to the video, to these types of videos. And they're more of like focused on like a specific topic. And I try to bring something of substance or something meaningful or something, not to say that this isn't valuable, but what I mean by substance and meaning, like in terms of like whether it be educational or something like that. You'll never see me upload just basically nonsense, like absolute like rubbish or absurdity online, which is why it's very rare that I post these LFLR presentations, because if I feel like I don't have anything meaningful to say, then I don't upload. But which is why I started the live stream. So I kind of have like a constant means of like providing you guys with something to watch, but also something to engage in. So the purpose of the live streams is engagement. But these presentations are more or less when I have something to say that's meaningful or educational. And in this one, Am I Under the Influence? Specifically, this video was basically like a little heartfelt kind of pep talk that I was giving based on some internet drama that happened within the indie publishing scene. And kind of just was like my way of kind of just having a little pep talk with people that may be aspiring writers and have yet to publish anything of their own works. And just to kind of give them a heads up of like what they may be getting themselves into when they decide to get involved with the arts and entertainments industry, I guess, because independent publishing does fall under that category. So if you guys are interested, you can always go back, check that out. And let's see, we have another comment here. This is from Alice Lucinda Bronte. Why is it doing that? And they say, and this is from last week's stream. I had mentioned a poetry book of theirs. And they say, A Fantasy Feast, a collection of fantasy poems by Jen Elvey, is the one I would buy if I was going to buy any of these. So a little shout out to Jen Elvey there. Looks like you've got yourself a fan or a potential reader. And then they go on to say, obviously, I already own Fascinate, Twisted Poems for the Depraved by Simon Warwick Beresford. I wrote it, says Alice. Interessante. That's it. That's it. Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is a man. Because I had said that it was a pseudonym. That was Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, by the way. Classic Jim Carrey. All right, let's get into some hot topics. Hot topic for content creators. This segment is where I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and you guys either turn around and create a video covering this hot topic, or you leave your comments, and then I will address, and then we can have kind of a conversation and talk about these hot topics. And this one in particular is about some developments. I'm not pitching a new topic tonight. I am going to be addressing some developments and adding to the thread of the art and artificial intelligence conversation that's already going on. And let me get. This is something that happened, happened on Twitter just the other day. It was like Friday. This was posted. So what could be a facepalm moment in the ongoing conversation of art and artificial intelligence? We have DeviantArt, which is the largest online artist community, announcing we're introducing new AI tools and controls. They say Dream Up, a new tool to generate art. Control the amount of AI art in your feed. Clear labeling of art that's AI generated. A directive to opt out of AI data sets, and the ability to opt out of prompts. Now, why does it not let me switch screens here? That was weird. All right. So let me bring up the article. Now, this is significant because, and I say facepalm moment because why would a website that has been dedicated to independent art all of a sudden be getting in on this AI generated game? It just seems very strange to me. It seems like a total freaking blunder on their end. And they did receive, they did, this was not done without a lot of pushback from their community. I'm not involved with the DeviantArt website myself, but I do understand that this is very relevant to the conversation, which is why I wanted to address this article. It says, introducing Dream Up, an image generation tool powered by your prompts that allows you, why they emphasize your there as if that's something special, that allows you to visualize most anything you can dream up. DeviantArt Dream Up lets you create AI art knowing that creators and their work are treated fairly. Okay, update. We heard the community feedback, and now this is what they added to this article. Okay, that's the second article. I will get to that. So they say important about this one. DeviantArt does not, and will not use deviations submitted to DeviantArt to add to third-party AI models or training sets or on DreamUp itself, which kind of begs the question here, why are they even doing it in the first place? But we'll get to that. DeviantArt did not consent to third-party technology usage of images on our site, which were used to train AI models. In an effort to combat future unauthorized usage, we have enacted, quote, no AI, unquote, an industry-first directive alerting AI models of deviance desires to opt out. DeviantArt is the only platform giving creators the ability to tell third-party AI datasets and models whether or not their content can be used for training. So, and this is something that was talked about in the last stream. I believe the last time that I was talking about this topic was how I was talking about an article that came from the Business Insider, where a renowned artist from like Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of his art was featured in Dungeons and Dragons, and also by other media software companies like game development companies and stuff, was having Rakowski, I believe his name was having effectively his name was being used in these AI prompts, and people were effectively hijacking his art style by putting his name in the prompts, which it was covered in the article that allegedly these AI generators the way that they work is they do not scrape the internet. Allegedly, they do not scrape the internet in order to generate these images. Without being able to look into the code itself, I couldn't tell you otherwise. I'm just rehashing what was said in the article. So, which kind of like throws up at least a yellow flag here in terms of, okay, well, why would you have to opt out if that's not what this software is doing? Then why would you have to have a feature like this where you intentionally opt out? Or is this opt-out thing really just about DeviantArt is kind of like getting ahead of the curve in terms of potential lawsuits or copyright infringement claims by basically announcing that they never consented to any other third-party AI image generators to using any of the content on the website, which that's kind of like what that sounds like here, partially, or at least addressing that if they heard of it, which I think is smart on their end, but then still begs the question, why are they then introducing their own AI image generator? Are they trying to say like, oh, we're the ethical AI image generator that you guys can use? See, we're the good guys. We're trying to protect your art, but at the same time, we want to incorporate our own image generator. I don't know. We'll get into it. Says, we encourage other platforms who enable creators to publish their work to implement similar protections. We are making our No AI directive available for use by all. So let's talk about this dream up. It says dream up almost anything you can imagine, whether generating an idea for inspiration, creating rough concept art before pouring hours into a final creation, or generating backgrounds and textures. Conversations with deviants have uncovered tons of creative ways artists are finding to integrate AI art in their workflow. Okay, so turn your dream into a reality. They have just some examples of some of the photos here. Let's see if I can share some. I could give you an example of some of the works. All right, so there's some of the pictures there. Not bad at all, I have to say. Good looking textures and all that, but again, like I say, it's just the end of the day, it's pretty pictures generated by artificial intelligence. Now, let me continue on with the article here. Says generating an image from a prompt is easy. So they just talk about how the app works. So Dream Up, enter a prompt, give as much detail about the subject, the style, colors, background as possible. Click create and see your vision come to life. All Dream Up images are upscaled by default at the highest resolutions, and all your Dream Up images are automatically saved to sta.sh or stash for easy reference. So there's this cloud. And so I think like one thing I will put out right now is it's one of those things where it's like you guys are choosing to engage with this. When you guys choose to engage with this technology, you are opting into this technology. And when you opt into this technology, you are effectively giving the technology carte blanche to develop in its own right. In other words, like it becomes more relevant the more you use it, because as it seems like right here, there's probably in the terms of service agreement, I wouldn't be surprised if you see something in there like how it's saying it's automatically saved to this stash folder, that stash folder becomes the new reference point for this Dream Up art generator, image generator tool to kind of reference from and like continue to develop upon itself. So in other words, it's like one of those things, like the more you use it, like I said before, whatever you pay attention to, be prepared to get more of in that regard. So you can rerun an image using the same prompt to get a variation or adjust your original prompt for a new direction. Click on the 3-dot menu of your favorites and select Submit as a deviation. Your deviation will be automatically tagged as artificial intelligence and will note that it was generated by Dream Up. Your prompt will also appear on the deviation page. So that's funny. I literally was talking about that. I was literally talking about how there had to be something put in place where there's some sort of accreditation protections put in place, or some sort of accreditation where it's like you can distinguish what is considered AI art and what is considered an AI generated image, slip of the tongue there, and what is considered an artist's work. Because one is work and one is effectively just a string of code. Now, another angle that I was thinking about on this one is like how people could use this technology. I could just see this like polluting. Like I could almost imagine the whole NFT crowd. Those of you who are familiar with NFTs, that whole craze, fad, I will call it, because effectively that's what it is. It's kind of like a fad. Basically, either they're going to be salivating at the mouth of this type of stuff, or they are seething with rage because if they know anything about economics, that they would realize that all their NFT, basically the whole NFT market is going to get a huge shit laid upon the whole thing with this AI generated images crap. So the NFT, so basically you can just effectively kiss the entire NFT market goodbye, if there ever was one to begin with. I mean, that's still debatable in it and of itself. But that's maybe a topic for another time. DeviantArt's stance on AI art. So this is just them talking about their, basically just trying to share their ethics behind the whole, explain their ethics, their ethical stance behind the whole thing. We've heard many discussions as the popularity and access to AI art. I just don't understand. Here's the thing. Like if they have, hold on. If you are the largest, if you boast the largest platform for independent artists, then why in the hell would you even humor the idea of AI generated art, images? AI generated images. Why would you even humor that concept? That's what I don't understand. I understand like taking a stance against third-party AI image generators with this no AI directive that you're leading here, and that I salute you for. That is good. But then to turn around saying that out of one side of your mouth, and then out of the other side of your mouth, you're trying to get people on board with this dream up thing. I don't get it. It just seems like a little bit of cognitive dissonance there. Like in other words, what is your, like, have you forgotten your mission statement? You know, what is your mission statement? I guess I should ask. I'm not even familiar with it. I thought you were the largest platform for independent artists. But now this kind of begs the question. Artists should be able to tell third-party AI data sets whether or not their content can be used. Agreed. All deviations are automatically. So this was the part that they added. So like early on Friday, this article launched, but then later on by Friday night, because of all the backlash they were getting about this dream up and all the drama llama, if you will, that it stirred up, they released a second article later that night stating that people wouldn't have to opt in to, in other words, to the no AI directive, that all deviant accounts would automatically be labeled as not authorized. So basically that makes more sense, obviously, that you would have to opt in to allowing your work to be used for AI generators, not the opposite. That makes no sense. For use in AI datasets, while DreamUp is based on third-party technologies like Stable Diffusion, which have trained their models with the open web. Wow. Okay, so there's some news. So Stable Diffusion does use the open web. DeviantArt does not and will not add images submitted on DeviantArt to these training sets on or off the platform. Number 2, artists should be able to choose whether or not AI images can be generated in your style. Artists who meet the criteria in our manual human review of applicants will be able to request an opt-out of their username. So that's something completely separate. That's interesting. If an artist isn't, so I'll just read the bold points. I won't get into the minutia of it. There will be a link to both of the articles here, so you guys can review it more thoroughly in your own time. So number 3, if an artist isn't opted out and their style is referenced in a prompt, they should be clearly credited. Well, that's good. AI images should be clearly marked as such. In other words, images, there's no question as to whether or not the image itself came from AI prompt or if it was an artist who took the time and effort to create the art itself. Number 5, viewers should have control over how much AI art they see, which that adds something an interesting angle to the conversation that doesn't necessarily have to do with the art aspect itself, but more so on the artificial intelligence side, and more specifically with social media platforms. And I'll get into that. And the art that they see. Oh, man. AI should not be used for abusive or hateful content. Okay, whatever. We're not ready for monetization. Yeah. Can you imagine monetizing? Once they start, these places start monetizing AI images, it's just going to be a freaking shitstorm, man. We're not ready for monetization. They do go on to say, we are considering whether or not monetization options might be available in the future, but we need more time to understand how to do that in the best and fairest way for all creators. I mean, how do you monetize AI generated images? You know what I mean? I'm sure there's people that are companies that are already going to be doing that in their own way. So I don't know, the lack of commissions for one, using it on and using AI. I would argue that using AI generated images on or in your commercial products in some shape, fashion, or form is also counts as a form of monetizing AI generated images. So the Dream Up package. Oh God, here we go. Deviants who haven't yet upgraded to core enjoy 5 free prompts to start dreaming. When ready to generate more, choose a level of core membership, level that best suits your Dream Up needs. So here it is. This is why they're getting in on just capitalism, people. Straight up capitalism. At the end of the day, they see what other companies are doing with AI generated images, and they want to get in on the game. Why? Because money. That's why. So you'll have the core package where you can get 50 free prompts and then 20 points per additional prompt, whatever that means. And then the Core Plus package, the Core Pro, and then the Core Pro Plus package. And how Dream Up works. Dream Up makes use of Stable Diffusion. That's what? So Dream Up makes use of Stable Diffusion, a third-party AI model trained on image data sets gathered by LAION from across the internet. DeviantArt's updated terms of service also apply to all users of that data set, including to any further training of Stable Diffusion or derivative models. This means that deviants can declare whether or not the content they submit on DeviantArt is authorized for inclusion in third-party data sets used to train artificial intelligence models. Interesting. So that almost sounds to me like DeviantArt is putting themselves in a position where their platform is one of the only safe platforms online for you to be submitting artwork. Did you guys read between the lines there like I did? That's kind of what that sounds like to me. That kind of sounds like they are positioning themselves as, because they can code, and they're in cahoots with the Stable Diffusion app, at least one of the third-party apps they're admitting to. So if all the third-party apps get on board with DeviantArt website, then that makes DeviantArt, unless you know how to code yourself and you can make it so you can protect your own work. If you publish your work, like say on your own website, like you may be having your own website scraped by bots without you having any knowledge of it whatsoever, or having to consent to it whatsoever. Oh God, the shit show continues. A common misconception we've heard is that AI generators simply output a collage sourced from a bunch of images. In actuality, an AI generator looks at millions of images to understand shapes, patterns, and colors, similar to how an artist might search the web for photos of a tiger before drawing their own tiger. And then creates a brand new image. Allegedly. Because you're insinuating that the AI has an imagination of its own. It's just, but it's like, if it's saying the resolution on it, technically it would be just pixelated art, but just think pixelated art, but it's just very, very high resolution. So really it's like, okay, if it's saying that's what it's doing, then really that's insane, because what it's saying is that it's choosing to change the colors and manipulate in pixel by pixel on high resolution models. So you could have really high resolution models where this AI is literally making a choice on a pixel by pixel basis, whether or not to what color they want to make that pixel. That's insane. And in some sort of mathematical equation as well. In other words, like turning it into making shapes with it by turning these pixels on and off in some particular color, and at the same time in a mathematical way that is creating a pattern of some sort that gives the output of an artistic image. That sounds insane to me. Start creating, and it is insane when you think about it, how far technology has come in that way, if that is what it's doing. And it's not just basically just scraping the internet for images and just creating an amalgamation. Because if you watched my live stream where I was showing the examples of Business Insider basically used Rakowski's name in the prompt of an AI generator, and it did create some images that effectively did look like it was really just kind of copying and pasting a specific piece of his work. If you guys go back and check that out, and you can tell me for yourself what you think. So that's the end of that article. Let's check out the other one here. Just real quick, I'll skim over it. So the other one, like I said, it was later on that night they released this post where they said the update, we heard the community feedback, and now all deviations are automatically labeled as not authorized for use in data sets. So let's see if they have anything new to say here. AI generators were trained using data sets collected from the open web. This includes content from creator platforms like DeviantArt, Pinterest, Twitter, and more. So if you're posting art on Twitter, be aware that your art is being snatched up by bots and being referenced. This was done without DeviantArt's permission and without your permission. Like I see, they're positioning themselves as being in favor of the indie artist. To help prevent your work from being used by third-party AI data sets without your consent, we implemented a flag to tell AI data sets not to use your art. In other words, use our platform if you want to protect your artwork. It's effectively what I get out of that. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave that update. You guys let me know. That's the articles. I'll leave the link to both articles in the description below. You can review them for yourself. You check back in on this video. You can leave your comments, review some of the other previous parts of this conversation if you want to get caught up on the thread. This is an ongoing conversation. It's not a one and done. We're kind of, like I've said before, it's a thread in the sense that we are embroidering the topic as new developments come through, as new developments pop up. And the conversation kind of goes through a metamorphosis, if you will, with new angles. You can come at this from all different types of angles, political angles, economic angles, however you want to slice it. All right, real quick, let's just cover a couple. Topics of news and events. So, news and events. Like, if you guys, for any of you that may have a project that you may be working on, for instance, if you have a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign going on, you would like a little extra coverage for that, I'm here for you guys. You just go ahead. You can just share a link with me, get in contact with me through my social medias. And I do like writers lifts, stuff like that weekly on Twitter. So you can get in contact with me that way. Just go ahead. Or you can direct message me if you want. But also another option is just do yourself a favor and join the Discord. LFLR Network is on Discord. I have no expectations of you guys to be there, show up daily, be engaging on there. You don't have to have any sort of engagement level. You don't need to achieve a certain level of engagement before you are able to share anything on the channels. I just open it up literally as a one-stop shop kind of hub, because I know not everybody has Twitter, not everybody does Facebook anymore, or anything like that. So if you're not huge on social media, but you still are, say you're just on YouTube, something like that, or you just don't really engage in social media that much in general, this could be a one-stop shop for you to share your books, your blogs. You got videos, submission calls. So if you're like small press, you run an indie or an indie label, and you do like submission calls for writer projects, and you look for writers to do like an anthology or something like that. You can share that in there. Crowdfunding projects, like I said, Kickstarter, Indiegogo. I know a lot of you in the comic books corner of YouTube, you guys are huge in that. So every little bit counts. It's all hands on deck when it comes to the independent market and with marketing in general. So it's definitely a community. I use that term loosely. Community-based thing. So get involved. I'm here for you guys in that way. So also, if you guys, if you're just a content creator on the Booktube realm of YouTube, and you do like reading events, or if you do Facebook groups, if that's still a thing, to do your book clubs, and you run a book club that you would like to make more people aware of, you can share that stuff with me as well, and I will gladly mention it during a future live stream. Now, for you writers out there, if you're looking to, I would say with a focus on aspiring writers, especially, but for any writer, really, it's open to anybody. The Live Free, Live Rich Network is accepting submissions to the Storytellers Society. Yes, this is a project that I started earlier in 2022. Basically, we're looking for flash fiction. So that is fiction that is between 500 and 2,000 words. And it can be any genre whatsoever. The way that I'm marketing this, I handle all the marketing after the fact. So it's a non-exclusive deal. So if this is something that you have published somewhere else, I'm fine with that. So long as you own the copyright and and permission, you have the ability to grant me license and give me permission to publish it or republish it on my blog. So this is basically a collaboration effort. This is a good, like if you are, like I said, with a focus on aspiring writers, if you have yet to have anything published and you're not you're not a published author yet, and you have just been writing, this could be a means of you getting some published works under your belt. And if approved, you become an honorary member of the Storyteller Society, and your work will be preserved at what I have dubbed the Hotel del SS. That is the platform by which I am showcasing all these independent contributions to the project. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, so you will have a reference point if you wish to credit, if you wish to label that as published credit on your own website as proof of, say, collaboration or accreditation or anything like that. So there is a process, there is an entry form that you fill out, and if approved, your work will be published indefinitely on the website and will remain there for the lifetime of the website. And if you go to my website, you will see that my website has been around for quite some time now. I believe I'm closing in on a decade, if not over a decade now, on that website. The Live Free, Live Rich brand, I know, has been around for over a decade. But the website itself, I believe, is closing in on that. So I like to leave a door open for those of you other creators out there. I just want to let you know that, I'm involved in the indie scene, and I am not here for, to amass fame and fortune for myself, as much as I really just want to be involved in the creative sphere in general. I consider myself an artist first, businessman second in that regard. So for those of you who are looking to branch out, if you will, this is a viable means of gaining some exposure for your name, for your brand, and getting your name out there. So I think the more I try to lead by example in that regard, and I think the more people who are involved in the indie scene kind of do something similar to this, where they kind of leave a door open for other creators to kind of like just come in and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, this is what I do. Do you think it's cool? Yes or no? And kind of give people a chance to network with one another, work together on things, So let's get into some reading time. Speaking of working together, if you guys have an essay, some flash fiction, you run your own blog where you publish your own poetry of sorts, and you would like me to read something live on the air, you can share something with me and I will do just that. It could be, it also, like I say, it could be an editorial as well. So if you're a critic and you do like reviews of works, it doesn't have to be from the independent market. It could be you writing an opinion piece on a famous piece of work, and I'll check that out as well. Basically, this segment is to not only share some other people's work where I read other people's work, but also I could provide some commentary. You could get my first impressions on the work. You could also just kind of show like what other people are doing out there as well. That's the point that I was going to make. Was that I look at this no matter what it is, whether it's an essay, whether it's poetry, what have you. I'm always looking at it through the lens of whether or not it sparks conversation, it provokes thought, it's thought provoking. Kind of gets the gears turning, and that's the lens from which I look at this. So for tonight is more of an opinion piece that I'm reading that does sound quite divisive, but I want you to keep in mind that I do not share the opinions of whoever is contributing to the show. Their opinions are not a reflection of my own. I'm simply looking at the piece through the lens of whether or not it sparks imagination, whether or not it provokes thought. And tonight we have one that comes from Diane Van Hook. She links a post from her blog, links to my blog and published articles. And this is from her blog. This is a piece that she entitled "White Supremacists Are Blue Falcons" by Diane Van Hook via her blog, theknowledgeablenerd.wordpress.com. So have a look at this, see what she has to say. See if it provokes any thought or sparks some imagination. All right. White supremacists are blue falcons. For those without a military background, we have something called a battle buddy. In training, your fellow trainees are your battle buddy. When you report to the instructors, you always need to have a battle buddy with you. In combat, your battle buddy is someone in your squad or unit that you trust to have your back in a firefight, get you to a medic if you fall, possibly avenge you if you die. If your battle buddy stabs you in the back or betrays you, they are referred to as a buddy fucker, also known as a blue falcon. It follows you to every unit eventually, even if you try to hide it. Both of my parents are U.S. Army veterans, and I followed them into the family business. My dad, a Black Vietnam veteran, retired from service after 22 years, and my mom's service ended when she got pregnant with my sisters in the 70s. I was on active duty for 4 years before I entered college. I remember once in basic training, the whole company was called outside in the very early hours of the morning. One of the boys on their side of the barracks had called someone the N-word. and his roommate wouldn't stand for it and reported him to the drill sergeants. It's not always as easy as that to call out one of your fellow troops, but they've left me little choice. So for every person on active duty or veteran that participated, okay, so she's talking about something that happened to her parents. So now that was like the pretense there. She's talking about an anecdote that happened to one of her parents, and now she's saying it's her turn, and she's saying, so for every person on active duty or veteran that participated in the assault on the Capitol on January 6th, no matter what branch, I have one thing to say. You are a blue falcon. I will say this much. That does sound like an intriguing book title, I have to say. I could see like a thriller novel or military, or I should say like an action novel or war novel or something like that, political intrigue, that type of stuff, with the title Blue Falcon. Just making a mental note. You have violated your oath of enlistment, swearing to defend the Constitution from all enemies, not the president. You mock the values of your service, whether it's honesty, integrity, loyalty, respect, or commitment to duty. You cannot sincerely serve in the military and be a white supremacist. The two are antithetical. You just want to point out here that what you're saying is that the people who everyone who stormed the Capitol is a white supremacist. You do realize that's if you were in a debate, that would actually be considered a fallacy, right? A logical fallacy that you're stating here. Yeah. Anyways, the two are antithetical. Because what you're effectively what you're stating in the thesis of your argument here is that everybody who stormed the Capitol is a white supremacist. Which could easily be debunked. Anyways, if you think that someone like me should be under your boot and not at your shoulder, keeping you alive, you've already destroyed any trust that might be built. People from all over the country and the world, no matter what they look like, their religion, their gender or sexuality or place of origin, join our armed services, and they should be welcome with open arms, no matter what they look like. The strength of our military comes from its diversity. Like I say, an opinion piece. When people from all walks of life come together to serve something greater than themselves, the strength of our military comes from its diversity. When people from all walks of life come together to serve something greater than themselves, our differences shouldn't divide us. It gives us a way to change the way we do things, gives us unexplored avenues to victory we hadn't thought of before. White supremacists and their ilk in uniform, you dishonor the soldiers that died in Normandy fighting against Nazis and fascism. You dishonor the military allies that we fought with in World War I. You spit on the graves of the Union soldiers that decided that people that look like me shouldn't be subjected to servitude, rape, or murder in service of profit. You would horrify the patriots that fought and died to free us from a tyrannical king that said we couldn't govern ourselves. You don't deserve your rank or uniform if you lie to your fellow troops, agreeing that you'll protect each other when in reality, in your own mind, you plot their death. It is a bold statement, I have to say. You're assuming what is going on inside the hearts of those that may have only been caught up in nonsense, mind you. Must we not forget what happened in 2020 and 2021, 2019 with the virus that shall not be named? There was a lot of people. I witnessed it for myself. A lot of people that got caught up, swept up into the nonsense. And you don't see me going out there labeling every Tom, Dick, and Harry that looked like a dumbass by serving and perpetuating the nonsense. Amnesty, I think they were asking for. And for what? Because we look different than you? Because you have some insidious inferiority complex that someone else might be smarter, stronger, faster, better than you? You shouldn't be there if you can't deal with it. As one of my drill sergeants was fond of saying, knock the sand off your clitoris and drive the fuck on. And if that offends you, suck it up, buttercup. I will say thank you to Diane Van Hook for sharing that very provocative take, a very provocative blog post with me. And it has inspired. It has inspired it has inspired me a little bit in terms of education. Educate me a little bit as far as that term. I never heard of that term before, Blue Falcon. Mostly because I'm not really interested in the military-industrial complex that much, beyond what it is, understanding it for what it is, but I digress. Now, how about we have some fun? Let's have some fun now. And let's do a tag video. I was tagged in a video earlier this week by, let's see, this comes courtesy of Nicole's Bookish Nook, and this tag is called Rock On Metal Songs Book Tag for 2022, an original book tag that she created, and I'm here for it. Let's talk about some books. Doing all right on time. I think this might extend a little bit past 2 hours. We'll see. I'll try not to lollygag too much. It is a 20-minute video on her end, so I try to keep my parts brief. So the last time I did a tag video, I got all the prompts laid out on this one, so we'll do banners, so it's a little bit easier to keep track of. So for anyone who reviews this video, because I will be tagging some people as well.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today,
Okay, just making sure that's on.
this tag video is an original tag, and it's Rock On Metal Songs book tag. So I've chosen rock and metal songs that I enjoy, and I put a question that is connected in some way or another to the song. Now, these took quite a few to figure out, so I hope on my end, I had to really dig into my Goodreads account to answer some of these questions. Oops. But hopefully you all enjoy the tag and then do it yourself. So the first question is Bodies by Drowning Pool. What book has the highest body count that you've read? And I'm going to say The Two Towers. How many people and elves and dwarves and all that were killed in the Two Towers? A lot. Like that, maybe like double digits. I think it's pretty high. I can't remember the number, but I know that it's really high in the Two Towers. Just picturing what happened in the book and the movie. Yeah, that's the number one. Number two.
All right. So let me get it into that. Bodies by Drowning Pool. What book has the highest body count that you've read? Well, if you might think that this might be a little bit of a cop-out, Nicole, you can let me know. But for those of you, if you know, you know. And I'm going with Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End. And like I say, if you know, you know.
Peace Sells by Megadeth. What's your favorite book that wraps up in a non lasting peace? And that would be The Last Tutor, that focuses on Jane Grey. Yeah, that didn't work out very well for her. And I wouldn't even say there was a peace happening, but it was a weird time because she was fighting for the throne, and like at first she thought she was okay, but she wasn't. She was not okay. And then she was killed, and the rightful heir to the throne replaced her. I think she was only queen for 18 days, 17. It was not that long. I don't even think it was a month. And that's one of the sadder parts in history. I don't know, and well, we don't know if she even wanted to be queen, but they do have that pull of you need to do it. It's your God-given right, blah blah blah. So I just wonder, like, what she was thinking, what other people were thinking that were on her side. Yeah, it was not good. It didn't end well for Jane Grey, and that's one of the sadder parts that I've learned about that time period and just the Tudors in general. Number three.
I haven't read that one. The Tudors, though, I will say this much. Let me go full screen here. I will say this much. The Tudors. Have you watched that on? Was it on HBO? They did a season. That show. I did really enjoy the show. The Tudors. So what do we got here? Peace Sells by Megadeth. What's your favorite book that wraps up in a non-lasting peace? In a non-lasting peace after a war or rebellion. And I'm going to go with another familiar title, or another title that you all may be familiar with, and that is Animal Farm by George Orwell. And of course, this is a story about farm animals rebelling against the farmer that runs the farm, and they want to be liberated. They liberate themselves. It's like a revolutionary type of war, if you will, under the symbolism, using the metaphor of animals and the farm, and how the animals were effectively like slaves. They picture themselves as slaves to the farmer, and then that happens at the beginning of the book, mind you. And then for those of you, I mean, you could read the book, but basically it's interesting how it happens, and I don't want to spoil how it happens, but let's just say it doesn't end with peace. It doesn't end with a lasting peace. It is peaceful for a while, but then things happen and it changes. The landscape changes over time, and you see how that happens step by step along the way. What's up, Rainer?
The Kids Aren't All Right, They're Not, by The Offspring. The most moving book you read as a child or teenager that got you through hard times. And I'm going to go with the Gemma Doyle trilogy by Liva Bray. It was perfection when I was a teenager, and I'm not going to read back at all. I know some people will read books that they've read as a child or teenager back. I'm not doing it because in my mind that book is perfect and it needs to stay perfect. And I remember, I don't know if I was 14 or 15, but there were a few scenes in the first book where it terrified me, but I was still reading, and it didn't help that it was pouring rain and the wind was shaking the windows. Like, it was just a perfect moment, and I still remember that. And that is something that, even though I was scared, I was enjoying myself so much that the stress of everything that was happening at that point just faded away, and I was in the book. I was part of the book. Nothing else mattered. And I think that's a big testament to Libba's writing and her characters and just overall storytelling. Number 4.
That is a that is a great feeling to have when a book has that kind of like magic, if you will, to really like pull you in. It's a strange feeling to have, I have to say, where it's like, because you're reading when you're reading a book and you're not really into it, like, you know that you're reading. But when you're reading a book and you're really into it, like, you become immersed in the book and you kind of like forget that you're reading almost. It's like the words, it's like your eyeballs are seeing the words, but your brain is just kind of like taking over, like it's on autopilot. Like you're no longer reading words, you're seeing the words like in your mind, as your mind like automatically, just like your imagination just like creates these images. So you're no longer like in the physical. It's such a strange feeling. I'm just explaining from my own personal experience. Like, when I've been immersed by a story, that's how I felt. Like, I was no longer in the physical. Like I was completely within my own head. Like I was like, take me, and this is just like an avatar, and I'm actually now a smaller version of myself, just existing inside of my head, like while I'm reading the book. I know that might sound a little bit corny to put it that way, but I mean, we are talking about, something that you've read when you were a child, so it's a very magical thing to when you first experience that. And I think that would probably been a good question too, like your first book that really got you immersed. But let's see. So we had The Kids Aren't All Right by The Offspring. The most moving book you've read as a child or teen that got you through hard times. I don't really know so much about hard times. For my example, I went with something that, I guess, like, I don't know, one example that I had was something that really inspired my own imagination and really got me into wanting to write. I have talked about this. I've briefly glossed over how I had talked about Goosebumps. Oh yeah, I didn't do the. That's all right. Okay. I briefly talked about how like Goosebumps got me into writing and stuff like that. But before Goosebumps, I do recall this made me remember there was a time like in my childhood, like I'd get them for like Christmas or something like that, where I got these books called from the Great Illustrated Classics. Let me see if I can get the link here. That's a bad one. Oh, we'll just use this one. So as you can see here, these, if any of you might see that cover and you already know what I'm talking about, these were, I'll read the page. I will say these, it's been so long since I've read one of them, so I can't tell you like how great it is in terms of the content itself. I mean, for all I know, it could just be shit. In terms of the adaptation, what it is these are. I'll take it directly from Wiki. It says the Great Illustrated Classics book series offers easy to read adaptations of well-known literary classics. So they're all hardbound, and they're all based on classics. So as you can see in this example, there's Dracula. I believe when I was a kid, I had David Copperfield. I had Treasure Island. And the cool thing about these is I think that they're good for kids for two reasons. One, I remember the text is very large, so it's large font text in there, and inside of the book itself, you have one page where it's text, and then usually on the left hand page there is an illustration. So it's like basically on every other page there's an illustration, and then large font text to make very easy to read. Plus, they're kind of like not I don't like I say, I don't remember how good of an adaptation they are. I mean, obviously, if it's targeted for age group of children, then I'm sure it's not a line by line of rehashing of Dracula. Obviously, they probably they change it and they abridge. It's abridged, adapted for younger audiences. But I think that it would serve as kind of like an introduction to these types of classics. So it's almost like it gets like in the child's mind. And I remember, regardless of the classics itself, like I remember like being like as a kid and just being drawn to these books because of the fact that there's illustrations, and this because of the size of the font on the text itself. It wasn't intimidating at all. It made you feel like, I remember feeling as a kid, like as an accomplished reader, like just kind of busting through these books. So for those of you got kids out there, early, younger kids or whatever, you want to maybe get them into reading or something like that, and kind of build an awareness for some of the classics, this might be a good avenue for that.
Runaway Train by Soul Asylum. Your favorite or Least favorite book that deals with running away or leaving behind a bad situation. I'm going to go with The Visionist. I actually gave that 3 stars on Goodreads. However, I think what needed to be done of Polly's case, the main character, was to run away. And she needed a safe haven for a bit of time, and that's why she joined the Shaker community. Gave it 3, it's actually 3.5 out of 5 stars because it was slow. And I was not a fan of Simon's point of view, so there were 3 points of view. So it was Polly, the main character, Charity, who's a Shaker, and Simon, who deals with Polly's family and trying to figure out what actually happened to their farm because her father is killed in the fire and the house basically burns to a crisp. So like a fire inspector? I don't know. I think it would be a fire inspector, right? But like it's he was contracted to figure it out. I just don't he meandered so much. It was important. I get it, but oof, yeah. I was way more interested in Polly and Charity, especially Polly because she has had like the worst life and absolutely needed to run away. Everywhere by
Okay. So, Runaway Train by Soul Asylum. Your favorite or least, either favorite or least favorite book that deals with running away or leaving a bad home. Well, I decided one thing I noticed that you're getting into some of these books that you're bringing up I've never heard of before, so I'm not sure if they're like indie books. You can let me know if they are indie books, but that did make me realize that I should, if I do these book tags, I'm reading a lot of indie, so I really should be making it commonplace to just kind of like start casually talking about indie authors and their books, especially if that's what I'm trying to do here is raise some awareness. So I have two. I did pick one for those of you who just want to know. Yes, I read The Catcher in the Rye. It's a book that deals with running away. It's an example. Those of you who know about it, you know about it. But I did also choose an indie book that I wanted to spotlight as well. It does have a fairly high rating on the Indie Breakdown. If you're familiar with my Indie Breakdown series, let's see here. That is Girl on Fire by Gemma Amor. Now, this story is actually about a girl. She's not necessarily running away, but she's a girl who has a troubled past and has become estranged from her family for serious reasons, and she's leaving a bad home. So I guess that kind of falls into this example, and it is it was a fun read. I thought it was going to lean one way. Turns out it wasn't that way at all. Like in other words, like when I first picked up this book, I thought it was just going to be like some sort of like feminist kind of like propaganda type nonsense. But it turned out it was actually a really fun read, and it wasn't about that whatsoever. It has kind of a it's an action. It's more of a thriller type of story. Action, there is quite a bit of action in it, but there's also like some undertones of like secret societies and stuff like that, or like secret government agencies of some sort that kind of gets touched upon in the novel, and it's alluded to in the end. I don't know. I don't know if Gemma has plans on coming out with a sequel for this one, but it is alluded to in the end that this isn't the only book that there is going to be featuring this character. Hey, what's going on? WCAM Studios. Welcome. Hold up a minute. What is this? Oops. What is this you're saying here? WCM Studios. I started a new channel, Project North Farthing. I got out of Alaska and went off grid. Got out of Alaska, went off grid in Alaska. Not really quite. What do you mean by that? Are you now living off grid in Alaska or out of Alaska? Thanks for joining us. All right, let's continue on here.
Fleetwood Mac, what's the most whimsical book you have ever read? And I'm going to go with Howl's Moving Castle. I still think about that book and I'm like, that is so magical, so whimsical. I read it at least 10 years ago and going through a difficult time with school and money stuff, and I just needed an escape. I needed something happy, uplifting, funny, whimsical. And that was Howl's Moving Castle. And I know a lot of people reread that book over and over again. I'm scared to do that because, like, with the Gemma Doyle trilogy, I have Howl's Moving Castle at like the highest pedestal ever, and I'm not going to touch it because it's just it's nostalgic. I love it. I'll watch the movie over and over again, and like it's not the same, but it's like I think it's good enough. Number 6, Thunder.
All right. Yeah, that's another one I haven't heard of, but that's fine. So you said Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac. What's the most whimsical book you've ever read? I will say this much: I'm not into whimsy. I'm not into absurdity. Those are the two things when it comes to my fiction. I'm not really into it. I like for the most part, I'm okay with magic. If there's like at least some sort of system in play, like in other words, the magic can be explained in a rational way. I'm okay with that. In other words, it's magical realism, if you will. Whimsy, not so much. However, I am the type of person that I am willing to read. I am willing to just kind of pick up just about anything when it comes to fiction and give it a shot. Regardless, like, in other words, like if I don't necessarily know what it is, like if I don't know that it's whimsical, for instance, like the example that I have here. This is another indie author that I've read from my home state, actually, as a matter of fact. And this is Forged from Fate, Ashes by Randy Liz Drake. And let me just read from the editorial that I wrote on this book real quick, just to show that it is an example of this whimsical. It is a whimsical example. This one is so for those of you who would like to know, this is an urban fantasy romance, okay? However, the reason why I believe that it is whimsical is because of something that would fall under the creative style of the novel itself. So the author used what they call the characters kind of take on, so it's like human beings, but it's also like there's this secret society, another secret society reference, kind of like a secret society of these characters called mythics. And the mythics are all kind of like a series of different types of mythological references. And they have like, it's like an altar, if you will, like a altar, like symbolizing the alter ego of the person. And as the person comes of age, they can actually physically transform into whatever their mythic is. So that's where the whimsical nature of this novel kind of takes hold. And it is quite whimsical, I'd say, in that way, because you have in this book, there's references of Minotaur, Sphinx, you got Wendigo, hippogriffs, mermaids, elves, trolls, werewolves, centaur. You got gnomes, phoenix and fae, and of course, also dragons. Can't have mythical creatures without some dragons in there. So, I thought it was okay. It was a 3-star read. It was a 3-star read for me. But I would have to say, at least recently, of course, I've read books like Peter Pan, the classics like that. But I wanted to give a more recent example of a book that I've read that was considered whimsical. What are you guys talking about? Oh, you got out of California and living off grid in Alaska. Good for you, man. Yeah, California, not looking too hot right now. Actually, it's funny that you say that. I literally was just earlier today, I was literally watching a video where a guy was basically doing like a drive-through filming of Oakland. And yeah, not good. Anyway, you're there too? All right, you get the hell out, man. I mean, freaking Mad Max before you know it. I don't mean that as a joke. Okay. Back to having some fun.
Struck by AC/DC, a book that left you struck, speechless, in a good or bad way. And I'm gonna go with Dead Inside. That's something recent. It was definitely a Halloween book. And I legit thought that it wouldn't be bad. Like, people were, acting up on
Dead
Goodreads,
Inside?
as they often do, right? And so then I picked it up. I bought it, picked it up, started reading, and I'm like, okay, I know, I get it now. There were some very uncomfortable situations. There were some times where I read a paragraph and I put down that book and I'm like, what the hell just happened? I need help. I need help, SOS. What did I read? I know a couple of horror fans that just read horror books or psychological thrillers or anything like that. And so they were warning you, but they rated it like 4 or 5 stars. So I was like, okay, I know if they say pay attention to the content warnings that other people are putting down, then it's messed up. So it wasn't a surprise, but I was just struck at how I don't even know the word about how messed up it is. Yes. And like that Chandler Morrison took it that far, but then again, that's what he does as a writer. That's what you do in horror. So But I finished reading and I just sat there for a while. So yeah, I was struck. It wasn't good or bad. It was, I guess it was in the middle. Oh, I don't, yeah, it was, yeah,
You
I don't
seem
recommend it to
conflicted, Nicole.
99% of people.
I don't know what to think of it.
And I thought I was going to do a
Hers
Booktube
nasty.
review.
Hers nasty.
I don't want to get kicked off YouTube, so I just let that go.
That's what I heard.
But now I just mentioned
Based
it,
on the reviews I heard.
and
Nasty.
yeah, I don't get into
Nasty
it
for the sake of nasty.
Yeah. Fine. Number 7 is Live.
All right. So what we got here? We got Thunderstruck by AC/DC. Some of that boomer rock. Yeah, boomer rock. You're listening to Boomer Rock on WBR 101.9 on your FM dial. Strap into your rocking chairs because you're in the house of gray hair. There's an old man at the retirement home. He's like, hell yeah, crank her up to 11. Otherwise, I won't be able to hear it. My example, what do I got? I have another indie book. This one, let's see, what was it? A book that left you struck speechless in a good or bad way. Well, I will go with just speechless in general. I don't know what to say. Like you, Nicole, I am conflicted on this with this particular example that I'm about to share. It's another indie book. And this one was just an author that I just happened to see around Twitter. And as I've told you guys before, I am not one that judges a book by its cover. However, in this instance, kind of reflects the content of the book to a certain degree. I would say in terms of quality, without sounding too much like a dick. So this was actually, it wasn't. I'm pretty sure that this one was my first indie book that I gave a 1-star review to. However, in terms of leaving me speechless, I will say that it wasn't a horrible, I will say this, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, but it wasn't an unentertaining or an uninteresting book, which is actually the worst thing that a book can be, if fiction. The worst thing that a piece of fiction can be is uninteresting or boring. And I will say that this book was definitely not boring or uninteresting. Where is he? just to give you a little taste. All right, so the reason why it was like one of the big things is the reason why I got 1 star is for the writing itself. The writing was not good. However, I don't think English might have been the author's first language. I don't know, but it wasn't just like grammatically. It was just like these run-on sentences that would just go on and on and on and on. Like, for instance, this comes from the book itself. It says, this is one sentence. I gotta get a breath. Me and the police officer walked up the front steps of the police headquarters building, walked towards the automatic sliding entrance doors, and as we both got closer to the automatic sliding entrance doors sensors, the automatic sliding entrance doors opened automatically, and me and the police officer entered the police headquarters building. Yes, that was a sentence that was in the book. And I was reading that and I'm thinking to myself, am I fucking being trolled right now? Seriously. And of course, there was another moment here. Let's get the hell out of here. I said. Me and Vic. We quickly turned around and we looked straight towards the party lounge room, and we just saw everyone stopped partying, and all the party goers glued their eyes straight towards me and Vic. Now we are in trouble. Next minute, a big SWAT truck crashes through the front of the party house and now entering and destroying the party lounge room, running over the party goers and killing them and injuring them. So there was a lot of moments right there where I'm like, I mean, where I said, I mean, everyone knows that's standard police procedure for breaking up parties. There was just little moments like that in the story that just kind of just left me like, you want one more? Okay, I got one more for you. So it starts out, so in this book, it's like these young guys, they're troubled. I don't know if they're like young adults or troubled teens. Whether they were on school bus. So I think there must have been like high school or something like that. So they're like troubled boys, both from single mother homes, and they get mixed up with the Yakuza. They're shoplifting. Turns out it was a shop owned by some leader of the Yakuza. They get mixed up in this gang, start doing odd jobs for the Yakuza. But then the story, like out of nowhere, like in the third act, like just randomly out of nowhere, like takes this like superhero Frankenstein, like the title suggests, Dead Man Walks type of approach that just like comes completely out of left field, has nothing to do with the overall narrative so far, having to do with troubled teens and getting mixed up with the wrong crowd and this and that. We're talking about mixing here. Vic stood back up and hands me the glass cup filled with sulfuric acid with water inside the glass cup. I grabbed the beautiful and exciting mixed drink with my right hand, taking it off Vic's left hand, and I brought the glass cup closer to my mouth, opening my mouth, and I sculled the whole damn lot into my body. All I had to say was, don't try this at home, kids. So like I say, when I was reviewing this book, I just didn't know where to start. I was just literally left just speechless. I was struck speechless. There was so much to talk about. It wasn't boring. There's quite a bit to talk about. I mean, there was guns, cocaine, gang warfare, prison fights, fight clubs, sex, trafficking, Hollywood references, and so much more. But I was like, wow. I just hadn't read anything like that before. It was that unique, which also could serve as an example that just because it's unique doesn't necessarily mean it's good. It's a unique idea. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. Yeah.
Living Dead Girl by Rob Zombie. What is your favorite book about the undead? And I chose Pride and Prejudice and Zombies because I don't think I've read that many books, my bad, that had undead
I was going to say, you made the tag
in it. I know a lot of people count vampires, but then there are people that don't count them because you're thinking undead zombies versus undead vampires. I guess that's like a trend or something. I don't know. But yeah, when I think of undead, I think zombies and vampires, but I haven't read much vampire or zombie stuff. And then I was thinking, oh wait, Anne Rice's books, but then I can't say that it's a favorite. Because I gave...
You didn't make it easy on yourself, Nicole, I have to say.
3 out of 5 stars. So yeah, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I rated that 5 stars. It was hilarious. It was funny. I think it was original as well. Definitely pick it up. If you want a mashup of zombies and Pride and Prejudice.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not big on the zombie stuff either, or get into the undead stuff. I really like that show, the Walking the Walking Dead. At least the earlier seasons. I think I stopped watching after the Negan season, or at least the first one where the Negan character was introduced. But anyways, talking about books here, your favorite book about the undead. So I went with the closest possible thing, and I will defend my decision here by explaining it a little bit. But I actually went with Dante's Inferno. This is the uh, this is the translated version by Clive James. Very dense read. Yeah, those of you familiar, it's actually part of a trilogy called the Divine Comedy. Let me hold this up here, and I'll get my article. So the reason why I picked this for the undead read is because in this book itself, where is it saying it? Okay, right here. So it's talking about in the poem, hell is depicted as 9 concentric circles of torment located within earth. So it is the quote realm of those who have rejected spiritual values by it is the realm of those who have rejected spiritual values by yielding to the bestial appetites or violence, or by perverting their human intellect to fraud or malice against their fellow man. Which is why I was also referencing the Walking Dead, because when you're talking about zombies or you're talking about the undead, more specifically with zombies, is that's what it is it's like a usually used as like a symbolism of people who are effectively soulless. The zombies are soulless beings that feast upon the flesh. I know that in what is it, Romero's, they want brains, but again, like I said, the whole feasting upon brains um, is also a metaphor for perverting. You could look at it as perverting the human intellect. So instead of, in other words, it's a play on words type of metaphor, where it's like instead of food, you think food for thought, the brain itself becomes their food. So they're stupid. They're not interested. They're not interested in intellect. It's the perversion of intellect, feasting upon the flesh. The brain is their food instead of someone who is interested in having food for thought, or having an understanding of the more metaphysical matters of the human experience. In other words, i.e., having spiritual values of some shape, fashion, or form. They're just simply running around completely based on instinct alone, like a beast in nature, and bestial appetites and violence. So that's my pick. A little bit of a stretch, you could argue, a little bit of a stretch, but that's my pick. That's the closest one I had for that prompt. That was a difficult prompt for me. But I am proud to say that I do have at least one example for every single one of these prompts.
Number 8, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. What's your favorite or least favorite book with multiple points of view? Now, I'm just going to go with Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo because I hate I hate multiple points of views. I can take 2, and that's really my limit. 3 or more, I can't. You're going to have a star knocked off, maybe 2. If you have like 6 point of views, oh my gosh. 6 of Crows, it was interesting enough that it
I'm assuming
was
there's 6.
3.5, but I bumped it up because there were some timeline, or not timelines, there were some backstories that were really interesting, and I was interested in the money heist, right? But then for Crooked Kingdom, I gave that 3 stars because too much. Again, this is like an indifferent answer, not like favorite or least favorite, but I don't really pick up books with a lot of points of view because I know I'm not going to like it. But I did give 6 of Crows a chance, and the first book was better than the second. Number 9.
Okay. So Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, your favorite or least favorite book that has multiple POVs? Well, I'm going to go with probably one of the most impressive, I will say, from the indie market that I've discovered. Let me pull them up here. And that is a book by the title of Once Upon a Lane, and that is by Duncan Wilson. This book, how do I explain this? It's like, it's third person, okay? But it's not, it's kind of a mixture of, like, it kind of like, it drifts in and out. Like, imagine the narrator is actually telling the story from the point of view of a floating camera. So if you're into, like, you know, like in like video games, third person video games, where you have like you have like the floating camera that's like just behind the character. But say if it's like, now imagine it's like a RPG game and you have multiple people in your party that you can switch camera and that you can switch POV on the fly. And that is effectively what the experience of this book is like. And it is very well done, very well written. Probably one of the highest rated indie books that I have on the indie breakdown right now. And the genre of it is actually speculative fiction. So it's not really one type of genre. It's a very speculative type of book. If I had to pin it down as anything in terms of like a subgenre, I would say cosmic. Just cosmic. Not even necessarily cosmic horror. Just cosmic in general. But it's not sci-fi in the sense. It might be something that you would see as like a subgenre of sci-fi, but there's like light elements of it. More, I would say, leaning more so towards like a thriller, but there's like all kinds of like weird elements to it. Like there's like nothing. The thing about the book, like as far as the points of views go, not talking about the book, but just talking about the points of views. So basically the way that it's written, it takes place in this cul-de-sac, and you're going through all the characters. The way that it's written, you'll be following one character along, and then that character will bump into a neighbor or somebody passing by or interact with somebody else in the neighborhood. And the scene will take place with those two characters. And then the original character may walk away, and now you're following the character that they were talking to, and then that character. It's basically like the camera just keeps going like that. It keeps going around in a circle or whatever, like it bouncing between all these different characters. And in the meantime, there's all these like little hints of things happening, like just under the surface of the objective view of what is being narrated. So you have to like pick up on all these little clues along the way. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Because at first I thought like this book, there was a lot of errors in it, which it just seems like it's actually very well crafted in the way that it's done. that you'll at first you'll think that the author is either A, fucking with you, or they're just, well, at first you'll probably think that there's mistakes. And then B, that's when I realized, okay, well, is the author just fucking with me? And then there's like things that like start to make sense. And I'll just leave that there's a lot of stuff that's kind of open to interpretation with this book as well. So there is a lot to talk about. But the writing is very well done, and it is an entertaining read. All right.
Possum Kingdom by the Toadies. What's your favorite book set in Texas or around a pond? Okay, the backstory to that is I looked up the meaning of that song because I was like, what? It's about a pond in Texas.
Okay, I see what you did there. So basically, what I was saying before, oh, you didn't make this very easy on yourself, Nicole. So I see how you did this. You chose the songs first, and then you tried to turn that into a book prompt. I understand.
Yeah, we're gonna go with it, okay? And my answer to number 9 is The Witch of Blackbird Pond. I remember reading that when I was a preteen, 11, maybe 12, and there was just a trend of witchy Puritan books during that time period, like early 2000s, that really inspired me. And actually, my book, The Two Foxes, because I read so many of the witchy Puritan books when I was younger, actually kind of inspired The Two Foxes. Sarah doesn't count herself as a witch, but she can see into the future, and she's almost killed twice because family and the town, Puritan town, thinks that she's a witch, but then she runs away and survives. And I think that is a fascinating idea because I don't know if we have any proof. Maybe we have anecdotal evidence, like, oh, my great whatever great grandmother was tried as a witch and she ran away. But I don't know if we have like handwritten letters or documents or anything like that of women doing that, or men. And I think that is
don't forget the warlocks
story just to explore, because surely there were women and even men that ran away because they did not fit in and they were going to be tried as a witch. And it's a life and death situation. And if you know for a fact that you're going to be tried as a witch and hanged, yeah, run away. Like, I would run away. I would chance it in the forest or wherever. You're not hanging me. I'm not a freaking witch. Like, that's my thought. Okay? I think it's a fascinating idea.
I mean, would you admit it if you were?
Yeah, and I ate that stuff up, especially this book in particular. I think I read it 3 times. Lastly,
All right. So number 9, Possum Kingdom by the Toadies. Your favorite book set in Texas or around a pond? It's very specific, you know, not very easy prompt to come up with. I do have a couple examples, and neither one of them, and both of them are a stretch. I will just say that much. So as far as a pond goes, let's do another children's book. My example for pond, we'll go with Frog and Toad. Yes, classic children's literature, if you will. And Frog and Toad is a book that is about a frog and a toad, and they're good friends, and they do live by a pond, indeed. And this is a book about their adventures together. And if you have children, this is quality children's literature. Quality children's literature with a message, a positive message about friendship, real friendship. Also, let me say, and as far as Texas goes, I did pull something from the library, if you will, my home library, and that is this one by Robert B. Parker, Appaloosa. Appaloosa? And I know this book, this one in particular in the series, takes place in New Mexico. It borders Texas. Okay, it's close. It's close. But this series itself follows two characters. It obviously takes place during the Wild West days. It's the whole series itself takes place across the whole southwestern United States. So there are some parts where it takes place in Texas. But the reason why I picked this up, I wanted to get back into reading some Westerns. Well, I wanted to get into reading some Westerns. I like watching Westerns. I've liked watching Westerns before, but I've never actually read any Westerns. So I wanted to read some Westerns, and I noticed that this one, the reason why I picked this up at the bookstore is because I saw that it had this sticker that says, now a major motion picture. So I picked it up for that reason, because I wanted, since I like watching Westerns, I picked this book up. I wanted to read the book and then be able to have a movie adaptation that I could watch after the fact. And fun fact, the movie adaptation to this came out in the 2000s. It wasn't highly successful at the box office, but there was filming in Texas for that movie. So if that's any consolation in terms of the prompt. Yeah. Looking forward to getting into that one.
Number 10, Hey Man, Nice Shot by Filter. A book, fiction or nonfiction, that handled suicide appropriately, meaning they didn't romanticize it. And I'm going to go with The Hand of Isis, and that is about Cleopatra. And in that book by Joe Graham, there are a lot of people that romanticize Mark Antony and Cleopatra as like a love story, like well, I mean, Shakespeare kind of did that, but actually Shakespeare did it better. There are some more modern takes and even some older takes that called her a whore and deserved it. And then others were like, oh, Jesus. She can't control her emotions, and so she killed herself, and like she made her handmaidens kill themselves as well because blah blah blah. Like, okay, the thing about Cleopatra killing herself was that Augustus wanted to take her to Rome and parade her around, which happened to her 3 children. And you know, they were in the past, Caesar, well, not just Caesar, there were many emperors or, you know, leaders that if they won, they would parade you through Rome, and it's absolutely humiliating. And then, you know, you're in jail or prison, whatever, for years, and you deteriorate. And they might have not tortured Cleopatra because she's a woman. I always mess up his name. It's the Gaul Vercingetorix. I hate that name because I know all about him, but I can't pronounce it. He was the Gaulish chieftain who almost won against Caesar, and he was in prison for a long time until he died, and everyone knows about it. We know what happened because they wrote it down, and Cleopatra knew about it because she was a very smart woman. And I think it's a difficult situation. She killed herself with the handmaidens went with her after Anthony died, and she has high hopes that her children will not be killed outright. And Cleopatra Selene was the only survivor. We don't know what happened to Helios
Can tell you
and
were
Ptolemy,
really into this
but
story.
it's suspected they died of, some sort of sickness. We don't know 100% though. But I mean, that was years after, and Cleopatra Selene does survive, and she rules, what was it? Modern day Algeria? Was it that one? So I haven't done research on Cleopatra Selene for 6 years because I did a whole thing with her in my Latin class. But you dump information, okay? Like I've dumped quite a bit of information from college, which is good and bad at the same time. But anyway, Cleopatra Selene was the successful Ptolemy, and I think she was the last Ptolemy. Child doesn't make it very far, and though there are some people that say, oh yeah, I'm the very distant Ptolemy of Cleopatra, and I'm like, okay. It's a sad moment because I think I could see her not wanting to kill her children, but then the thought probably popped up, should I poison my children as well as myself and my handmaiden? But ultimately, she believed that Augustus wouldn't be that horrible. And she was right. If it's true that Ptolemy and Helios died of like a sickness, but it's not true for her eldest, that was the child of Caesar. He ran away, but he didn't get that far. I don't think she knew about that. So that is like, it's a very difficult situation. It's nuanced. It is not black and white. And we don't have a lot to go on anyway about her decision. But she did what she did. And in The Hand of Isis, it's not glamorized or romanticized. It's an extremely difficult decision. It's heartbreaking when you read it. But with everything that I, just explained, that was the choice, or dying a slow, painful death in Augustus's prisons, and and before that would be parading around in like shackles and through Rome. She couldn't go anywhere. She tried, she couldn't go anywhere but Egypt. So running away wasn't an option anymore. So that was really something.
Living worse than a witch.
Was mentioned.
Persecuted witch.
Death, and then her handmaidens chose to go with her because they don't have a future, as they believed. Without her, they would probably be assaulted, tortured, killed a horrible way. Wasn't very nice for women back then. So, I mean, it wasn't great for men either, but I don't think they would have been like a sex slave. I don't think so. Then again, it's Rome, so.
They would just be shipped off to war. They would be cannon fodder for the motherland.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on from that depressing last question. Sorry about that. I didn't want to stick it in the middle because it's depressing, but number 11.
So yeah, I have no problem talking about that stuff. So I think that's a good segue into what I chose. Like, I think that the only reason why, like how you worded this, you say, so, hey man, nice shot by Filter. And you want me to say a book, fiction or nonfiction, that handled suicide in an appropriate way, not glamorizing or romanticizing it. So Shakespeare You mentioned Shakespeare, so Romeo and Juliet, obviously an example of romanticizing suicide. But the thing about it is, from the point of view of like teen angst, but you also have to like put yourself in the mindset of that era. What is there to do? What can you do? What are you allowed to do? All these different factors come in. And I think that the only reason why the concept of suicide seems so extreme, or is such touchy subject matter, aside from people who may have personal experience, for lack of a better term, with all of that, or have been personally affected by that in some shape, fashion, or form, that I could understand, and I could understand. But I think really, in general, as a general subject matter, I think the only reason why it seems so touchy is because the way our civilization is in this day and age, that it has become so taboo. Death isn't really talked about. Death isn't really talked about in the mainstream. It's not even really glorified. I shouldn't say glorified. It's definitely glorified. Like violence is glorified, murder is glorified through media and stuff like that. But like death in general is just not really in the mainstream. It's not something that's just like discussed openly in a casual sense. It's always through the lens of tragedy, something that is, it's depressing and all this and that. But sometimes, you think about suicide and he's saying not glamorizing or romanticizing it. I don't really think that there's an inappropriate way. For one, I don't think that there's an inappropriate way to discuss the theme. I think it's all on the table. All the cards are on the table. It's however you choose to approach the subject matter. You're the author of the story. So if you wanted to make a joke out of suicide, you could. If you wanted to spin it and turn it into a humorous thing, it would be perhaps a dark comedy, but you could do that if you wanted to, and it'd be perfectly valid. In my eyes. In terms of glamorizing it, I don't know. I mean, it could be like glamorizing or romanticizing. Remember that movie like Independence Day, where the guy sacrificing? If you go on a suicide mission, well, if you're on a suicide mission, that implies that you're not going to be coming back if you are successful. If you come back from your mission and it was considered a suicide mission, then you probably either A, you failed your mission, or you were a coward and you didn't see it through to the end. So there's that. For instance, the movie Independence Day comes to mind, when the guy flies into the mothership and he's just sacrifices himself. That is romanticizing it, but he's sacrificing it. He's doing it for a cause. There's a reason for it. So I don't really think that there's an inappropriate way to cover it. It's just a matter of doing it in a way that I guess makes sense within the context of the story, just like anything else, just like any other theme, making it believable. You know what I mean? Of course, you're going to want to have some sort of, when you're dealing with highly taboo type of material, now you're going to have to be a little bit more skilled of a writer and have some sort of, be able to approach that type of subject matter with some semblance of tact in your writing, so that it doesn't turn people off, unless that's what you're aiming to do. I chose Brave New World. In this book, it's a book where there's a schism in civilization, where you have the highly technological civilization, and then you have the more primitive, savage type of tribalism in the world, that the remnants of tribes, if you will. And there's the trope of the noble savage, the illustration of the noble savage in this story, and he's taken from this, like, if I remember correctly, taken from the basically from the wilderness, brought into the New Age civilization, which is highly mechanized. It's highly synthetic, and everything just kind of is commodified. It's basically like the end of capitalism, if you will, and beyond that. And then it's basically the story. The way that this story handles the concept of suicide is very deep, is meaningful. It does show, like, it's basically like coming to terms with the concept of being of what it would feel like if you suddenly are like feel like you are a completely different fucking species. Like human beings are no longer the same human beings that you've once were so used to. Like in other words, interacting with, understanding, being able to relate to, and you feel like you are the last of a dying breed. And that is kind of like how I sum up the way in which this story kind of looks into that. And it does add an element of I don't know, it just an extra layer of depth to how that's handled. And it really puts the rest of the story, because that's not what the story is about. It's more about the world in it and of itself, and the philosophy, or I should say the ideology wrapped up within that type of world. But yeah, that's my pick.
$11 is who are you going to tag? And I'm going to tag Jonathan, Raph, Bald Booktuber, and Annalisa. I'm going to mention them. I'm going to @ you down below. Hopefully I do it correctly.
All right, so that's the end of the video right there. I will be leaving a link to Nicole's channel in the description down below. And I'm proud of you, Nicole, for taking the time to recognize some other people on YouTube. And I do have some names. I'm going to tag some people. I'm going to tag Michael K. Vaughn. I'm going to tag Steve Donahue. And last but not least, I'm going to like to do things in threes. I'm going to tag Matt Wall Poetry. You all can consider yourselves tagged. And anyone else who may be watching this video as well, if you wish to participate in this tag, by all means, you have my blessing. But the only thing I ask, like Nicole alluded to there at the end, is that if you're going to take the time to do a tag video, then put in the extra effort to do it right. And what I mean by that is make sure if you do the tag video that you link or give credit to Nicole's Bookish Nook as the original creator of the tag, and also that you take the time to recognize some other YouTube channels and tag them as well, and try to encourage other people, because I think, the main purpose of doing a tag video is that it is a community building type of activity. So if you do a tag video and you don't tag anyone, well, it's not really a tag video now, is it? It's basically what I'm getting at with that. Plus it makes people feel good to be recognized by others. Why not make someone's day? So that's it for me this week, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all had some fun. Hope you discovered something new. And I will be back here for you next week. Same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week.